What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cullahcast 39. What's going on, everybody?
I'm here with my buddy AJ
Grill.
What's up?
Thanks
for having me, man.
Grill.
What's up?
See you
Yeah,
again.
thanks for having me.
Grill.
Yeah. What's up?
Fresh off our
Yeah,
dance.
thanks for having me.
Special comedy stuff.
Yeah. First one.
Comedy stuff.
Yeah. It feels scary, Cullah. It feels scary. It feels scary, Cullah. It feels scary. It feels scary, Cullah.
Yeah, that must be a little harrowing.
Yeah, it took me 10 years to make the first one, so yeah, let's hope it doesn't take another 10 for the second one.
How do you find your strategy for the next one? You think it's gonna take?
I don't know. I'm thinking like 2 years. That's my goal. 2 years, yeah.
Because how many minutes is it?
It is 44 minutes.
That's a long special, isn't it? Or no?
It's usually they're about an hour. When we were done cutting it was an hour and 10, so we had to cut it down, which was incredibly hard to do.
Okay. So I'm trying to think. The first time I met you, it's definitely some event, comedy / music / degenerate event in Milwaukee somewhere.
I know what it was, and it was actually a very non-degenerative event.
Well, look at me.
You held it was. I think it was you. It was for a men's homeless shelter.
Oh, yeah.
So we were doing something wholesome, as a matter of fact.
That's literally the opposite.
Yeah, we've done degenerate things together, but that was not one of them.
Yeah, it shows you the path I'm on in life. I think that was a Here Presents event at Company Brewing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great event. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Here Presents, shouts out to Ryan and Matta and the whole crew.
As always, Cheston and Billy as well. Thank you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna play some clips from the special later, but wanted to get into more about who you are and how specials even made. Because to me, I'm a musician. I've done a stand-up once at Bremen.
Yeah, you told me about that. I might have been there.
I think you were there.
I think I was there.
I just remember being like, AJ, and you were like, fine. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's all I need.
Yeah, I'm kind of a dick to new people. So
no, it's good. I realized then, I was like, I know comedy is so difficult because as a musician, the bar is really, really low for comedy. So like I could just be like, wow, I can't believe that thing over there. And then people will be like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, to be a musician, you have to have an established skill, right? Yeah. Anyone can walk into a comedy open mic and be like, put their name on a list and be like, I am a comedian now, which is the worst thing about comedy. And the best thing, honestly. Because you can't, I mean, everyone can start, but God, is it just, open mics are the worst place on earth.
I mean, I think that's probably the same for some music open mics too. But I guess my point was like, I think in terms of comedy on stage as a musician, like when I'm performing music, I can say anything and people will laugh, and it's actually crazy. Like, that's what I meant about the barrier is low. Like I can just say something that's objectively not funny at all, but because there's like a lot of tension maybe from the music,
sure,
or people are a lot of feeling a lot of different things, they'll laugh. And I'm sure you've been there, a big concert, and like this guy he wouldn't say a single word. He'll just come to the mic and be like, thanks everybody, and everybody be like, ha ha ha, that's hilarious, this musician's hilarious.
I have seen musicians crush before, but I think you nailed it. I've never thought of it that way. It is like the tension between songs, and that's what comedy's about, is like building that tension and like releasing it. So, but I've seen they're funny musicians. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person to be entertaining on stage. So
yeah, it's something I've been learning as a musician, but then to go on to the just pure comedy, I realized like, oh man, okay, yeah, it takes a lot more prep than I think. I think my best line was an open, like what's it called, the setup, and the parts that I thought were going to be funny weren't funny, and the parts that I didn't realize were funny, like the little non sequitur into the next premise. That was the big line, was like, I was just moved into like, so I'm a fan of mer people, and then that was the line, just that I was like, that was funnier than the joke itself.
So we'd say you had a solid premise there. Your premise was solid, but also the between the jokes, that tells me that you're a good performer, because the between the jokes are very important. Keep it rolling, keep it flowing.
I definitely felt some similarity, and I'm definitely looking. I have some things more written down now and trying to like prep a little bit more.
Sure.
I want to. I'll be back into that stuff. I want to get more into that because it's super fun, and I think it really helps me just as a performer in general.
Yeah.
To be able to have things that you have cooked up, things that you know that work. Because I'm usually doing it. Like I'll do crowd work as a musician too, and just like kind of talk to people, ask people questions, do that type of stuff. But it's way different in a comedy show. So that's my understanding in comedy, and I think so we met at that. So that was a few years ago. But we did 2 of those, but that event was a very wholesome event, and when was that? It was a few years ago.
I couldn't tell you. 2017, 2018.
Shit, okay, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But I've been seeing you crushing in the scene now, and I've seen the Milwaukee comedy scene just in general and the infrastructure here drastically changed probably from 2016. Like, can you speak on that? Because I know you're from Iowa originally, right?
Yep.
Like, so how do you find the scene there? How did you make your way here, and how do you find the scene here now?
For sure, I started in 2013 in Iowa City, Iowa. I was gonna go the year before and do comedy, but I chickened out, and I started in Iowa so I could get up like 2 times a week. And then after about 6 months in comedy, I moved to the comedy metropolis of Stevens Point, Wisconsin to finish college.
Hilarious.
And it was great. I really loved my time there. I got really lucky because Wausau is about like 30 miles or 30 minutes north.
Now that's a city.
That's a city. That's a Northwood city, my metropolis again. And they had just opened a club up there. And so I got really lucky in that regard. So I could do comedy there, but I was like only 2 times a week. And then summer of 2015, I had an internship here in Milwaukee, and I moved here. And so since 2015, I've seen the Milwaukee scene specifically go through a lot of turnover, a lot of changes. Right now, in terms of like rooms to work, it's probably the best that it's ever been. There's, almost every night of the week you can get up at open mics, sometimes, multiple mics a night. And then a lot of independent shows. We, of course, have the Laughing Tap, which is great. They're a comedy club, independently owned comedy club in the 5th Ward, bringing in great national acts, give lots of opportunities to locals. And then we have the Improv Comedy Club. It's called Milwaukee Improv, but it's in Brookfield, who bring in like the biggest named comedians that are, working right now. And they work a handful of us, and they've been very kind to me. But I would say in terms of like actual shows, this is the best that it's been.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Just beyond the peripheral and seeing it, I would like being at some of those open mics. I would go to a lot of music open mics that were like either back to back or next, especially at Bremen, where
Bremen,
back to back. I would always be there, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna go a little early to see comedy.
Right.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, and they had like. At one point, they had like $5 liters of Old Milwaukee.
It's insane, yeah.
I don't think they have that anymore. But
it's whatever the giant pint. It's still very cheap.
And that, I mean, that was an interest. That's danger. But yeah, that, I mean, man, I have to say, that when did that Improv open in Brookfield? Because Brookfield does make sense. It seems like it's probably in a more affluent area. People can spend more money. It's not as like dense of a population, but it's got some density over there.
So any of those chain clubs like the Improvs or the Funny Bones
it's a chain?
It's a chain, yeah. So they all open up in like the suburbs as a business design. But it was supposed to open like in 2020. We all know what happened. And then it opened, I think, 2021, August of 2021. Yeah. And I was there for their like soft opening and opening weekend, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I saw them open randomly, like on my feed at some point whenever they opened, and I was like, "Wow, okay, another comedy show. That's cool." And then I saw like Tim Dillon and now like Shane Gillis and all these like big up and coming national touring acts that are coming through, and they're all going there, and that's exciting but it is it's a chain, so it's probably a large distributor or like a large agency that has, in the music industry, right? We have like Live Nation, and I wouldn't be surprised if does Live Nation do any comedy stuff?
I think like if it's like a theater, they do they'll do some of that stuff. I'm sure they own a club or two. Sure, but this is another. They own like the Hollywood Improv, the La Brea Improv, and then like 17 other ones throughout the country, and they also are a management. Like a comedian management company, but they manage like Joe Coy, like the biggest names in comedy. Sure. But they operate all these awesome clubs. I mean, the thing seats 400 people, which is insane.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a sizable venue for folks. So how often does how do you see that then affecting the like local scene when they have those big chains that come in? Is it like, what are the comedians on the ground? What do they think? Because I'm sure there's a lot of the demonization, but I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity. So and same with the music. It's like it's always split. There's some people that are like, they want to look at it, be like, no, it's more competition. It's more, this is a positive thing. We're going to be more growth. But then the other people say, well, who controls this? A monopoly,
Right.
So what do you think?
Oh man, you're getting into. I'll speak from my own perspective. You're totally right. There are some people.
I mean,
both. If you're not getting the work at that place, you're going to be like, oh well, that place sucks, this or that. And sometimes maybe it is a gatekeepy thing. I don't feel that way here. I think they're very fair. But yeah, it's just it's going to be tough depending on what situation you're in. If you're getting work, you're going to be excited. If you're not, as far as like the Improv and the other club, the Laughing Tap, they're two separate things, right? I mean, they're comedy clubs, but they're both bringing fantastic acts. One's in the city, one's 22 minutes, 25 minutes outside of the city. So they really don't step on one another, which is perfect for a comedian. We can, get work at one weekend, work at one the next weekend, and probably not see the same audience, which is super important.
Just within a half-hour drive.
Yeah. But I think it's all beneficial, at least at this point in my career. I'm getting work from both, and I love both of them dearly.
Yeah, to me, I would say any infrastructure is probably a positive thing, just net positive. And obviously it comes with, gatekeepy type things. And this is kind of the nature of a lot of the entertainment industry. There's this crazy quote. I forget who it was. I have to look it up, but I've been using it now. Like there's this Hunter S. Thompson quote about the entertainment industry, about how it's just like filled with pimps and thieves and about how like it's just a long plastic hallway.
Yeah.
And all these different things. I'm like, damn. And I feel that in the music industry in particular too. It's like so many. So it's
getting easier though, don't you think? They have similarities, but they have differences. But I think it's getting easier now with, I mean, like I said, there's so many DIY shows that have really cool followings that, each week or each month, whatever it is, they get these awesome audiences that are coming back time and time again. You can get quality stage time that way and get better, clips that help you get into those clubs or get into those shows that maybe you haven't been able to get into, or festivals, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I agree with you. Anything that can build up the infrastructure is going to help as a whole.
Yeah, because I would imagine, for these types of chains and stuff, and for upcoming comedians or upcoming entertainers and stuff, that it's all about making relationships and showing your value to those people. For a lot of businesses, they want this, they just want to make sure people are in the door and they're having a good time.
And they're selling drinks.
And they're selling drinks.
That's the nature of the business. That's how it is. I mean, you got to find your way around, because we all understand that, but I wouldn't keep doing that if I thought, I'm just up here to sell drinks. I'm up here to do something that I love to do, and making things that I like making, and making people laugh.
Yeah.
And if they're drinking and making the business money, even better. Definitely.
And I mean, I'd say for stuff like that, I mean, at least in Milwaukee for music, like there's a lot of places that, if you can establish relationships with folks and they can see your dedication, your focus, and your ability to make people laugh and to get some people in the door, whatever it might be, then it's a no-brainer for people, like to bring you on and do that stuff, like for a lot of folks. And I don't know the politics and I don't know the people at the Improv or how they do business or anything like that. But in general, for these like chains and stuff, like you're saying, they have specific goals, and if you can show up and show, hey, I'm going to bring some value, and this is how. There's been a lot of times where you get local openers for national acts. They might be a little bit low on ticket sales, and they go, we need another 20 people to come through the door at least. Like let's call up a local entertainer to come in. He'll bring at least a dozen, 20 people, and then you can have you could potentially piggyback on some bigger audiences that might not necessarily have seen you before.
Right.
And so does that happen at the Improv?
Yeah, I got super lucky. The very first, I don't know if it was the opening weekend. It was the first weekend that I worked. There was a comedian. He's got a huge podcast, Gareth Reynolds, The Dollop. He's actually from Milwaukee. It's like it's him and I can't remember the other guy's name. It doesn't matter.
Does it have to do with like lifestyle entertainment or men's lifestyle?
No, they pick just pick like topics, and like just kind of, it's like they teach you, but they're funny. Super nice guy. He missed his flight So I walked into the Improv, and I was featuring. So a typical comedy club goes host, feature, headliner. So I walk in, and it's my first weekend, like working the whole weekend. And I walked in, and one of the door ladies was like, "Oh, Mr. Headliner," and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just featuring." And she's like, no, I have you down as headlining. I'm like, no, because I thought they're new staff, they don't understand. I'm like, no, I'm just featuring. And then she's like all confused, and she gets on her little walkie-talkie, and she's like, okay, Jake, the general manager, is going to come out and talk to you. And he walks through the doors. He's like, buddy. And I was like, oh, shit, so this is happening. Like, I'm going to do it. So I got a headline the first Friday show, and it was awesome, man. That was like one of my like top 5 sets I've ever had. It was super fun, and I had no idea I was going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, but the opportunity's there because you put all that work in, right? You put all that work in, you put it in the hours, you put in all that time to get to that point where the person say, AJ, he's the one that we want. And to even be in positions where he could even say, okay, we know that he could take this spot, right?
I mean, they didn't have a choice. They had a room full of people. So they're like, get up there, dude. Well, don't sink us.
But, they didn't say no, right? Like,
They didn't send him home.
They didn't send you, they didn't say, oh, canceled, refunds.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they were like, especially early, right? They probably had no choice, like you said, right? You can't.
They didn't.
It
worked out.
That's what we call in business leverage.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Send these people home? What are you gonna do, Jake?
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because I mean I've always loved. That's probably all I consume now is just like stand up, podcasts, and random like now just like business and markets and entertainment stuff where I don't really watch shows or anything anymore. I don't watch. That's just like
when you say stand up, are you watching like clips or are you watching full specials?
Specials of people that I like.
Okay.
But a lot of podcasts, a lot of comedy podcasts,
same.
Where it's just kind of a lot of, especially with good guests, like those ones that they can get the interesting guests and they can riff and they can just have fun. I just like, I'll be working or doing whatever I'm doing, and then you just crack up. All of a sudden, you just I'm in the middle of my room. I'm just falling down in cataplectic state. Yeah. Like I can't. It's like it's amazing. It's really an amazing thing, and it's just like it's so much. I don't know. I love comedy because it really like I don't know. You just feel better.
You do.
You feel better.
It's a trick. It's endorphins. But yeah, you do feel better. Yeah.
It's fine.
Also, could you guys look up cataplectic for me? No, I'm kidding.
Cataplexy.
It's
the cousin of narcolepsy.
Oh, so the cousin, like the fun cousin of narcolepsy?
It's funner, yeah.
Yeah. You laugh.
It's not
Is it hysteria?
It's like, have you ever had that feeling where you have you don't have voluntary control of your muscles?
Oh yeah, you're talking about drugs.
It's like when you laugh, you like kind of like I have this thing, especially after I like have a few drinks the next day or something.
Yeah.
I'll laugh and I like kind of like I can't for half a second I like lose
it.
Motor function.
Yeah.
And it's a it's a thing.
Yeah.
Everyone knows now that I'm.
Do you have a primary care doctor?
I do. I told them, I said, I think I have a cataplexy. And they're like, excuse me, can you look that up?
Yeah. He's like, did it again. Damn.
Those are usually the stories I have, or usually the encounters I have with my primary care.
Yeah. You stump them on vocabulary.
They're usually residents at the clinic down the street. And so they're just like, Ian, did we go to college together? You're like, wow.
You're that guy with the good vernacular.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm super pleased for you to come on this.
Man, I was stoked when you asked me. Yeah,
because I just been really admire your work and to see the special then, and that's a comedian. People work so hard. Like I said, 10 years you've been working on it. And getting to a point where you can put that into a special and have your first one be done with it, and now and then you said what you said you feel afraid now. What was it?
I mean, just like, well, let me ask you, like when you put out an album, you do like one a year. Yeah. When you put that out, like you have this moment of like being proud, but then do you feel a little bit of the blues, like a little bit of like, oh man, like now I got to do this again? Yeah,
yes and no. Like I'm usually sick of it.
Yeah.
So I'm usually like happy to see it gone, and I'm already on the next stuff.
For sure, and that's why that was the catalyst for doing the special. I was like, no one here who did approach me, like it was kind of a joint thing. I it said something to Ryan Holman, shout out again Ryan. Like if I ever recorded something, I'd want to do it at their space because the space is super cool, and I love working with those guys. But like nobody was like really asking me to do it. But it's like, man, I'm gonna be I recorded it when I was almost 10 years in. It's like, if I'm going to be doing this 10 years, like I need something to like show for it, you know? And like you're saying, I was sick. I wasn't sick of the jokes, but like some of the jokes in the special I wrote 6 years ago. And then like, obviously they've changed in those years. They've, you know, I've added a tag here, took things out, whatever. But those jokes were in their final form. Like I've done those all over the Midwest, all over the country. And like, I'm just ready to like, when I go back to those towns, like, those cities, it's, you know, it's here's new stuff, which feels cool, feels good.
Yeah, I have to say I actually enjoy the release of the music, and like I feel I kind of see them as abandoning them and being like, see ya, like, man,
good luck.
And then exactly, good luck out there in the algorithms.
Yeah.
And then I go back. It takes me about a couple years, like a year later, I'll listen. I'll be like, okay, but I still hear all the mistakes. I still hear the mixing problems. I still hear the stuff. But then 2 or 3 years in, then I'm like, hey, this is pretty fucking good. I'm like, damn, I'm kind of a genius. Yeah. And then like 5 to 10 years, then I'm like, holy shit, like I was on some shit. Like, man, I'm a totally different creature.
Yeah.
And then
that's cool though.
And then I hear it, and I can hear like the wisdom of like me at 18.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Being like, I don't know, just random bits of poetry or random bits of like these things where it'd be like, nah, this is what's gonna be like. Like I remember just recently I discovered my college entrance essay to an engineering school, by the way.
Okay.
And the college essay was literally what's the word? Like not a vendetta. It's like a, you know, what is it that you make before you go out and do the thing you say? Like not a proposal, I forget what it was, but
a premonition.
Not a premonition. It's like
a what'd you say? A catalytic converter.
A cataplectic state.
Cataplectic state.
Yeah, I was in a cataplectic state and wrote this down, and it was basically just me being a manifesto.
There we go. Okay, you're right. We should have got that.
It was like a manifesto of like, I'm going to be a musician for the rest of my life, and I've discovered this. And I remember reading that, being like, wow, I wrote this, and I went to engineering school, and it had nothing to do with music. Like, bizarre.
They still let you into the engineering school?
Yeah, they still let me in.
Like, this is the wrong school, but we'll take this guy's money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, well, and both my parents went to the same school.
Okay.
My grandparents went to the same school. My mom was one of 17. They all went to the same school.
Legacy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of legacy.
Wow.
And my great uncle was a news anchor for TMJ4, and he has like a scholarship in his name there too. So it was just like, they're like not gonna not let me in. I actually applied late, so they were just
wow,
like,
that's beautiful.
Right.
You shouldn't have to pay any money if that many of your family has gone through. The scholarship should be just, I'm this guy's fucking nephew.
The 17th kid got it for free.
Nice.
So there's like,
is that what it is?
Buy 16, get one free. Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to touch on touring, right?
Yeah.
Because I envy comedians with their touring, because we have gear, we have to load in, and we have to do sound checks, and we have to do all this bullshit, and it's all this expensive equipment that always gets stolen and all this stuff. But comedians, you just show up and you know.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
do you
nice. Warm up? No, not really. Might have a beer to lube up, I guess. But I mean, I guess do you tour mostly solo, or do you usually take people with you?
I've done bits of both. I'm experimenting. People with me is a lot more expensive.
Yes. And
so the solo or duo tours, when I have a partnership where I go with like another musician, we can split some of the costs and split.
Right.
Those are the best ones.
Right.
Solo can do really well as well, but it's just doesn't have as much chutzpah.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have like, a little Ashkenazi.
Yeah.
No, I'm not Ashkenazi at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's always nice, like, when you can go with like a friend. Like, the road gets like, even if it's, I think the longest that I've done solo is like 5 days, and like you're interacting at the show and it's really fun, but like that's like this rush of endorphins, and then like next thing you know, you're just like alone by yourself, whether you're like sleeping in your car or in your hotel room, and it's just like it's crazy how like mentally trying it can be, especially if like a long drive the next day, you didn't sleep well, the gas station coffee's got you all amped up, you know, like so I love it. It's fun, but it's I'm glad I don't have to lug around equipment, I guess. That's nice.
Yeah, you can use that next time you have your post performance for depression.
Yeah, right.
Like, then it's like, well, at least I'm not a musician.
Yeah, right. At least no one wants to steal my 2000 Ford Explorer.
No, that's a real thing. Post performance depression, the way you're describing it, it's the same as what I've experienced. It's you build up to this big moment, and like there's been times when I'm much more aware of it, so I'm like way more mind body aware
sure.
of when it happens.
Sure.
so I don't like do anything crazy.
Yeah.
But like the first few times it was like I'm opening for this touring band. All these people that I admire, they like reached out to me, like DM me, be like, "Whoa, you're playing that show?" Da-da-da. And then people, get messages from the radio station. We'll be there tonight. Stuff like that, where I'm like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." And then put on a great show. Then I just go home,
and then it's just,
and then I wake up and I'm like, hey, there's a window here. I wonder what it would feel like to jump out. It's just like, wow, that's a weird thought.
And then it's just you, man. Yeah,
I'm like, well, that's interesting. Just like a few hours ago, I was like felt on top of the world, and then so I realized, like, oh wow, yeah, this is a thing.
And you can trick yourself and be like, did anyone like it? Like, I know they clapped and laughed and everything, but
but they're all liars.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a fraud. Yeah,
they're all liars. For sure. Well, and the mistakes he made and all that stuff. And that's, for me, I'm always, upset with a lot of, not always. Sometimes I'll like you're saying, when you have a good set and you have a good set, you can feel it, and you can feel the audience is happy. But, as long as you're up there and trying and failing, like, with grace, like most people don't even know or care, especially when you put in the hours enough where your failure is really just like someone else's. It might even be someone else's like killer set.
For sure.
Know what I mean?
100%.
Especially with the level of experience.
It's hard to keep that in perspective too, but yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll try to remember that, like, even if I go to Bremen and I'm trying new stuff and I bomb, well, it's like, I've done this, I've bombed 1 million times, I'm gonna bomb 1 million times more, but there might have been some comic of the audience like, hey, I really liked that, and it went poorly, but like they, you're just getting props from people who aren't as far along, and
And then you start to enjoy the bombing probably. And
sometimes it's fun. There's nothing more fun. I'm now, and there are a lot of other people in the scene and friends that I have across the country, but bombing gracefully is something that is so fun because, like, it's going. If you can still be entertaining even though you're doing poorly, you can do comedy anywhere. Doesn't always happen, but I'm getting really good at it.
Yeah, once you find some tricks or like ways to. I mean, it's really alchemy, right? Like, it's like you take the energy.
For sure.
And that's why I think, as a performer, like, I've always looked at that as, like, there's energy in the crowd. There's energy that you have. There's these tools and these, like, ideas and concepts and the way you do it. You can kind of paint these pictures. You can put things in people's minds. Mm-hmm. You can make them think about things, make them flip it, put things together, make them, and then trick them and do all these types of things. And then, and if you have enough experience and understanding of how audiences act and interact with the performer, then all of a sudden things become a little simpler.
For sure.
Easier. And then you can kind of, so has there been what's the worst / best time you've bombed then?
Oh, the worst time that I've bombed in recent memory, I was in the lovely city of Rockford, Illinois.
Nice.
And it was at this vegan, I think it's a vegan brewery, which I didn't know breweries could be vegan. I guess they don't use any animal parts in the beer. I don't know.
Guinness isn't vegan. It uses like fish bladder or something.
Oh, interesting. Is that why it tastes so smooth?
Yeah.
Wow. It's airy.
You're drinking meat, baby.
Yeah. Meat beer. But yeah, it was what we would call an ambush room. So like half the room over, like most of the people did not know comedy was going to happen. And this is pre-pandemic. It was probably like 2019, and it was pretty brutal. And then Chris Schmidt, another local comedian, very funny. He went up right after me, did very well, and that was just like that rips your heart out. We're like, well, okay, you could say I took the bullets, but I mean, I could have turned it around. I don't know. That was brutal though.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, I had one lady recently. I was at Cask. It's called Cask Comedy. It's at Great Lakes Distillery. This was a couple of weeks ago. And I did special drops. So I'm trying to do like all new stuff locally. So I did 15 brand new minutes. And I have this new joke about like therapy and how I kind of go through like my friends tell me about their therapy and like how I tried therapy, but it's not real therapy because I did like the BetterHelp thing. Like it can't be real therapy if you get a 10% discount from the podcast. And enter this code for 10% off. And
enter grill.
And like, yeah, right. Enter grill. You won't get anything. They'll actually, I owe them money, so you guys will get an invoice. Yeah. It's like I go through like the first time. This is totally true. Like the first therapy session I had, the therapist was like, I was like, I have a dead mom, I have a dead brother, and she's like, that's great. And she's like, what's your relationship with God? And I was like, not good, you know, like the guy that like killed half my family, like not going great. You don't think I tried the free thing first before I came here? Like I tried the free thing first, and that did not, like, I was doing great. That didn't land that well. And then this lady came up to me after the show, and she was all mad. She's like, you were really good, except for that last joke. Leave God out of it. Nice. And it's like, dude, so sometimes like your jokes are gonna bomb for certain people, and it doesn't matter. Comedy, that's the best and worst thing about comedy is it doesn't really matter. Like it does and it doesn't. Or orators, they say, orators. Yeah. Like, you know, comedy's like the last bastion of that. But like, I just like to be silly and have fun.
Yeah, people can take shit too seriously, and that's why I like comedy, is because it's a little, you know, I mean. And
there are comedians who tackle, you know, very serious topics, and like sometimes I have had bits like that in the past, but you're still just telling fucking jokes. There's
some Irish proverb I remember as a kid. It was like, to cure any ailment, all you need is a long laugh, a good nap. And I think that's it. Yeah, it's like a long laugh and a good sleep, and then you wake up and you feel a million times better.
That sounds like people who starved for a while.
yeah, we don't have to get into all that. That's why the Irish are funny, man. It's I mean, you could call it major cope, but it works
for sure.
Like, you know, and let's see. So yeah, anyone tuning in, thanks for tuning in. We got AJ Grill here, local comedian, got a new special out, always on the road. Been doing a lot of good stuff. Is there anyone in the chat here that has been saying anything? What we got? We got some folks in.
Lognarok saying AJ Grill is the funniest comedian I've seen on Instagram.
Oh shit!
Nice.
Hey, shout out,
Logan,
follow AJ Grill.
Yeah, what is it? AJ Grill.
AJ Grill. Grill like a grill.
Instagram, yeah.
And then Ryan Holman says, happy to now you met at the guest list event.
Oh, the guest list.
Yeah. That's what it's called. Ryan, check your spelling, buddy.
Yeah, the guest. I was trying to remember the name of that. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, thanks for setting that up.
Shout out.
Yeah, a lot of the reason why we're here today and talking about this special is pretty much
exactly,
Ryan.
Yeah. And then Lognarok again says,
nice.
Chris Schmidt do be laughing. That was previous.
Yeah, he do be laughing. That's true. He do be laughing, playing guitar, and telling very tight, very good, well-written jokes.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Logan. Thanks, Ryan. Good to see y'all.
Wait, I know Logan. Is he living in Logan
McDermott?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Hey, Logan. He did comedy here.
Did he? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's a Renaissance man.
Nice.
Yeah, I think he's up in. I know he's up in Minneapolis now. He's a good follow on Twitch if you guys are on Twitch and you see him.
I'm gonna have to do that.
He's a good, great D&D dungeon master.
Ooh.
So if you guys like Dungeons and Dragons, definitely give Logan a follow. That's a great. He's been on the podcast as well. So
in good company.
Yeah.
And we got a Smoky Water Studio on YouTube. Tuning in.
Smoky
Water. Hey, good to see you. Longtime fan. Always good to see you. It's been too long doing these live streams. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming on. Nice. Yes, I'm interested in the road personally, man, because it's something that I've been getting in as a musician, and I'm just wondering, like, yeah. So you said 5 days. So what's the furthest you've gone for a gig, and like how does the pay usually work? That stuff. You don't have to get into details. About this,
but like, depends. Well, I was gonna say earlier, if you don't think there's any money in music, don't try comedy.
At least just you.
Yeah, I mean that's not true. Like now I'm at like a point where like there are like independent like so like I'm obviously not headlining ticket sales. Yeah, and I'm not obviously not headlining like the improvs, but like CCU in Minneapolis, Teehees in Des Moines. There are these spots. I mean, Laughing Tap here. There are these spots where you can go and be at this level and make money. The farthest that I ever went was I did a festival in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then I flew from Wilmington, North Carolina to LA to go do some shows. Did you ever know Carter Deems when he was here?
Yeah. So Carter's been on the pod.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah. So he's like one of my best friends in the world.
My number one podcast, I think, probably.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Him and I did a 5-day run.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, we did a 5-day run through the Midwest. So we went from here to St. Louis to Kansas City to Omaha to Lincoln, and then to Minneapolis. And in every single one of those cities, at every single show, he had like at least like 25 people there just to see Carter Deems, because he's a fucking internet famous battle rapper, dude. But we went out to LA. and did like some smaller stuff out there. None of that stuff paid. He got me on he was doing a battle rap at the Comedy Store. And so they had stand-up before at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room. So I got to do stand-up at the Comedy Store, which is pretty dope.
Fuck yeah.
But on that trip, I mean, I did a festival, which doesn't pay. And then I flew to Los Angeles. So I lost a bunch of money on that. But on a money-making trip, Fort Collins and Denver, and like working my way out that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds, hit and miss. You take what you can get. Sometimes you get paid, sometimes you don't.
Right.
And that's the way it goes, I guess, with a lot of entertainers, a lot of thing that where it's
merch, baby.
Merch and email lists, that's the way to go. Yeah, merch, man, on the road is like on my tour was 3 guys. We went on tour, was it 14 days, 11 shows.
Damn, 2 weeks. I've never done 2 weeks.
3 dudes and a 4-runner.
Damn.
And yeah, drum set, bass amp, all
crammed
that
in there.
It was tight at first, but by the end we figured out some pretty good arrangement.
Nice.
But yeah, the merch was just like literally. I would say now I get in the habit of it, and I learned on the road like you have to plug your merch like 3 or 4 times every show.
Yeah, I mean, comedy you only get one shot. Like towards the end, you do one little plug,
they don't let you
and then like I mean, you can, but that's gonna mess up your flow.
Incorporate it. I seen that. I went to a comedy show in Denver, and I saw this comedian who had merch, and he kind of integrated into his set.
Oh, I kind of like that. I've never really seen that.
He had like a joke. He told these jokes that was like his catchphrase.
Yeah,
and he'd be like, "I'm the catchphrase guy. I got this catchphrase." And he goes, "Oh, look!" And I saw a stack of shirts on the table, and he's like, "Oh, look, here's the catchphrase. If anyone wants it."
So yeah, that's what you do. Is you would do your joke, and then after that, like if you like that joke, like I have this after the thing, but like, you can't do that. At least I've never seen anyone do it like 3 times for a set. That would actually be incredible if someone was able to work that in like 3 different times. But it gets a little inauthentic then, Like I always feel.
Exactly. No, that's always
it just always feel grimy to me to be like, but it's like we're saying, very necessary to be like, buy my shit so I can fucking eat a meal tomorrow morning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, the way I look at it is, at least, and I've had to just like, I've taken that person that is worried about it and I kind of like, I don't know, brought it out into the porch and shot it in the head.
That's good. That's good.
on the tour, because now I'm just like, the way I look at it now, at least, is most people have no idea. I know this for a fact, and most people have no idea what the business model of independent artists are and comedians and stuff. They have no idea that merch is such a valuable thing on the road,
right?
And that even them just spending that $20 to buy a T-shirt, chances are that stuff has already been accounted for, and that's going to be the gas for the next city, and that's actually part of their tour budget and all that type of stuff. And for me, I've done when you do push it, and especially if you have cool, good merch, like there's a lot of great Milwaukee artists that that reached out to get really cool art designs and stuff that are compelling. Obviously, you have to do a good job too to get people to actually want to do it. So you got a lot of things to do, but I mean, I've made like $600 in merch and for some
that's
where it's
a lot.
Crazy.
That's great.
Dayton, Ohio, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Hell yeah.
Where it was just like, man, I don't know what's going on, but people are lining up.
That's great.
And I was just like,
nailed it.
Yeah, it was wild. First gig of the tour too. Well, it was like, wow, this is gonna
set you up.
This is gonna be a good tour.
Yeah,
because that now and
pay
the
for
venue,
a Super 8 motel after that.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. And the venue was collecting tickets, like full ticket price, until the last minute of the show.
What do you mean?
Though, like, some places they just let people in when there's 20 minutes left.
I see.
Or they'll give them like a discount.
Yeah.
Full price.
Nice.
Like people were coming in. Oh, we have a show, and I remember looking, and be like, "This is over in 10 minutes."
Yeah. And they're still like,
I'm like, hey,
that's great.
I don't know about the experience of the customer, but like, I don't know. From my point, I was like, all right, sweet.
Yeah, money in my pocket.
Yeah, that sounds about right, man. Yeah, and that's, I guess, my question is like, what are the opportunities to monetize and to monetize comedy, and not just that, but like monetize for live performances, or what is the value you can get from these comedies? Do they provide you with a way? Do they give you emails? Do they give you contact information? Do you have to do that yourself? Do you have your own email list? How does that work?
Yeah, you have to do all that yourself. That's one thing that I personally have not been as good as I should have over the years. I don't have an email list. Like I'll plug my socials like on stage, like, hey, if you like this, follow me, which sometimes works. But really what they're offering you as far as venues is they're offering you a place to perform and hopefully some cash. And yeah, I mean, and that works. Like, you know, you go to a city, and maybe no one knows who you are. You do a good job. The next time you come to that city, whoever remembers you, they bring 4 or 5 of their friends, and it just like keeps building that way.
Ground
that's game. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, and like
it matters. It does matter.
It does matter, and like I mean,
a hustle,
you know, it doesn't make me feel bad to say this, but like almost nobody knows who I am. Like some places I can go, like especially like if I'm going like where I'm from, Iowa City. Like I have fans who come out who I don't know, like other than they saw me a few times or remember me when I started. Locally here too now, you know, there's a lot of people who come out to shows, and it's very flattering and nice. So yeah, it's just doing that, and really now it's the clips online, you know, all that sort of stuff, and then promoting where you're going to be. But yeah, it's, you know, you have to do it yourself, and like it's weird. Like this is something that like I've talked about with a bunch of comedians. Like when I say we, like the people who started around the same time as me, it was like, you know, you wanted to get a Netflix, like that was the pinnacle, like Netflix, Comedy Central half hour. And then the next thing it was like Netflix was doing all these 15-minute, like whatever they called I can't remember what it was, but they have like 5
Netflix
people.
Is funny?
Yeah, something like, well, that's their festival, but they would have like 5 people do 15 minutes. And now the best thing is like a 60-second or 30-second clip on TikTok. Like it's changed so much that it's hard to like, I just like performing live, but it's almost impossible. There's only, you know, 30, 40, 50 comedians just doing stand-up, making a living solely on stand-up anymore. Like you have to be doing all these other things, which I'm trying to get better at. So yeah, as far as like venues, what do they offer you? They offer you a place to perform, hopefully grow your audience, and hopefully make some money to get to the next place, or to get home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's fascinating. Thanks for the insight on that, because I've always been curious about the differences as a musician versus comedian and what the similarities. But
well, have you ever worked with have you ever had an agent or like a manager? Or?
I mean, I've talked to many managers. I've had relationships with managers and stuff and that also we're in the comedy game and things and that stuff too. But it really is the way I look for a team around a specific personality or likeness or entertainer or whatever it might be, or whatever talent it may be. Unless there's money coming in enough that a manager is going to be able to actually be worth their while to get that 10-15%. Right. Same with agents, for booking or whatever it is. Unless there's ticket sales enough that 15% matters. Right. You're gonna be stuck with, you know, people that are fresh out of uni and like people that are just building it. But like I've even heard from managers that they will never accept anyone that hasn't had a manager before. Stuff like that.
That makes sense. I mean, and that's the only thing is like that's how you get into like those, at least from what I understand, the chain clubs. But now it's changing, right? If you have 900,000 TikTok followers, like those clubs will give you, and you probably have a managers reaching out to you at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just the game has changed so much. That's what I've heard
is that they come to you, right? Yeah. When you're in the position. Speaking of, so let's just shift gears. I would like to look a little bit at the special.
I would love that. Cool. Yeah, I would love that.
Like we got some clips, courtesy Here Presents. We got some clips from the special.
You can watch it on the Here Presents YouTube page. So
is that what that is?
Yeah, well, this is mine, but go to the Here Presents YouTube page. To watch
the link's in the description. Yes. For the full special, you can watch all 45 minutes of AJ at Here Presents. But yeah, let's take a look at what is this? Oh, you're also a teacher, right? We haven't even gotten into this.
Yes, yeah. So I won't spoil it. I am a teacher, sort of.
Sort of. So let's see.
I don't go to the doctor.
Oh, you can play that one first.
Because I am a man. Yeah. Listen, they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but so does minimum wage. You know what I mean? I guess. Keep them pretty far away, as a matter of fact. I don't.
Nice.
I don't teach in the classroom, so calm down if you're concerned. I teach field trips. Yeah, which I should be paid $1 million to do. Okay. Yeah, you guys remember field trips? Yeah. You remember how the whole week leading up, you're like, I can't wait to fuck off so hard. Who's gonna stop me? Justin's mom? You know. I don't teach in the classroom.
Mom. I like the pan.
I know the reaction. Her reaction is also like it is Justin's mom. She's like, oh.
Well, you pointed. You're like, is that Justin's mom? He points to.
Smoky Water says, Cullah, you never told us you have a twin brother.
Oh.
Do we look alike?
If I took it
Oh
down.
man, yeah, I always forget. Yeah, just a couple of white guys with long, sort of curly-ish hair.
From the Midwest.
Yeah, from
baby.
the Midwest. That's right. Dude, you should let me open for you on the road. We could confuse people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I need to get. Yeah, well, we do have. I think.
Yeah,
it's all pretty
I
much
could
there.
see it now. Now it's kind of freaking me out.
Thanks, Smoky Water.
Yeah,
Wow.
Smoky Waters. God, I liked you before, Smoky. Now you're fucking wrinkling my brain.
So yeah, I mean, we don't have to like explain these things, but like obviously, because no one wants to explain why a joke is funny, obviously. but like, I'm interested just in like you mentioned earlier, like before I think there's maybe one more clip, but before we get to that one, like when you said like some of these were for 10 years, so for these last two jokes, can you at least tell us like when they were written and like maybe why you put them in the special or something?
Yeah. The very first one we played, the doctor one, is actually very recent. I wrote that like it was just like kind of we were talking about in between jokes, so that was kind of a connector. If you watch a special, like it's kind of how I connect two different jokes, and I just like I don't even know. I basically tweeted like. They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but so does minimum wage, which I can relate to. I don't make a ton of money in my day job or in comedy. And so it got a good reception on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is funny. So I tried it on stage. And then I've learned over once you do it for a while, like you figured out like sometimes you'll have a joke and the joke is a good joke, but it doesn't really have a home in like your longer set. So then, like, sometimes you'll have, like, these epiphanies, like, oh, this could go here to kind of connect these two jokes that maybe are similar, but, like, just need this kind of connecting tissue. So that's what that one was. I think I wrote that, like, literally a month before, and I'd just been trying it on the sets leading up to the album, and it was doing well, and it got a great reaction on that. That was the second show, and it did really well, and I was happy with that one. The teaching the classroom, I have... probably like a 8 to 10 minute chunk on teaching. So I'm an environmental educator. I teach kids in the outdoors. And so all of my teaching that I do, almost all of it, is field trips, like kids that come to the nature center. And they're little fuckers a lot. And
I bet.
And it reminded me, but that's like when I was a kid, like I used to get so amped to go on a field trip because you knew you could fuck off. And
Loved it.
exactly.
I loved being a field because it was freedom. Yeah, and exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that because I mean, when you said that joke, I was like, oh yeah, Mrs. Bonfiglio or like whatever it is, or like Mrs. Playtech.
Yeah.
Like you knew, like I knew that they knew, like they would be some moms that were like boys will be boys
Right.
type thing, so I could just do crazy shit. You could get in fights and they'd be like boys will be boys.
Yeah. I have a distinct memory of we had like it's actually what's almost exactly like where I work at now. It's like the state park. We stayed overnight, and I actually used this guy. I call always Cullah Ward's dad because I just have this memory. We were like standing in line for like breakfast or something. I don't even know what I was doing. I was just like again fucking around with one of my friends. And he like flipped out on me and was like screaming like, is this how you would act in your own home? Like screaming in front of like the whole school.
Wow.
And so like that was like, so I remember being that little kid. So I'm rarely mad at them. Like,
Yeah.
I get it, you know?
So yeah, man, I could only imagine, man. Like, I mean, I remember grade school and high school. I went to a small private Catholic grade school. So my grade school is like super chill.
Sure.
Like, there was some drama here and there, but it wasn't anything crazy wild. Like in Fox Point, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
sure.
super chill.
I'm sure I teach that school to this day.
St. Eugene?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. Is it good? Bad?
Yeah, they're usually good.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the kids are like elementary
kids.
is fine,
Yeah,
but like
elementary.
you get into middle school and
Yeah,
you're like,
middle school.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough.
I didn't do too well in the middle school. I would always get kicked out of science class. The last day of class, she kicked me out. It's just ridiculous. Like literally the last day.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, lady?
Yeah.
Like,
Nah,
and it was always
this is it.
it was always like go out in the hallway and then come back in 10 minutes, I guess.
Right.
And I was always just bizarre.
Yeah.
But field trips, yeah, man. That I
Just to wake up excited that day, like,
I
oh,
remember going to the
today's
Audubon.
day.
Is that where?
Yeah, that's where I work.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Can we bleep that out?
Actually one of the funniest moments I had, like one of my most distinct memories was this guy. We went snowshoeing, right? And
I can tell you who it is. Yeah, keep going.
he put on some milk duds.
Yeah. I do this
Okay.
I do this
You
trick
do
to
this
this
trick
day.
every
Yeah.
time. To say he did this trick, I was super like my mom was like the chaperone that time. I was
Uh-huh.
really little. We have this nice panoramic of us in the snow. It's cute and very little. But I remember him being like, "Oh look, you guys look, rabbit droppings. And then he goes down and he's like, yeah, they're rabbit droppings. And he's like, anyone want to try? And I just remember being like, oh my God, he's eating rabbit poop and like freaking out.
Yeah,
and then he like pulls out a box of milk duds and is like, anyone want some milk duds?
Yeah. I'm a hack, dude. I use that to this day. I'm going to use it. I will use it. Yeah, I'll use it very soon.
That's amazing.
That man taught me how to teach those programs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was really cool.
He's a very cool guy.
I was very little, but I remember being like, this guy's cool.
He's very cool.
Like, you can just feel it.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you can feel like that's an alpha male.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think when I go to work. I'm the alpha of this group, 5-year-olds.
It's like an adult making poop jokes, right?
Yeah, dude, totally.
Like it's weird. It's like, wow, this guy's a genius.
And you know what's crazy? There are so many educators that are in stand-up, like even like not just in Milwaukee. There are a few in Milwaukee, but like as I like travel around, like there are so many teachers. The funniest comedian in Milwaukee is a teacher, Chastity Washington. I don't know if you've ever seen Chastity.
Of course, yeah.
She's incredibly funny and still
is
a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stories that she has, man, holy
crazy good.
Snipes,
She's so funny.
Let's see. What's the time? Little time check. How are we doing on time? 7:56. Okay, cool. Let's look at the last clip.
I don't even remember what this last one is.
It's a very specific kind of man that puts a rubber sack on his truck. You know what I mean? Like it's the same kind of guy that likes to call his truck like her or she. You know, like gets mad about people's pronouns on the news, but it's a pronoun for their truck. Do you follow along? You know. And that's my cousin, dude. Every time I see my cousin, he's got this big new truck, and he's always like, AJ, look at her, man. Isn't she beautiful, man? Look at her. Isn't she beautiful? It's like, yeah, man, she's beautiful. And those nuts are hanging low, too. Good for you. I did not expect you to be on board with the transportation movement, but here we are. I'd ask you what kind of insurance you have, but I know that it's progressive. So.
I remember, I was...
I know. Not often you get a perfect insurance joke. I know. I get it. I get it.
A little bullshit at the end there.
So I remember that. I was in attendance at least for one of the tapings.
Were you at the first show or second show?
The second.
Okay, second show. First show was good. Second show was what I wanted.
And that line got me. I remember people going crazy.
Yeah.
At that. That was a really memorable moment. But that's a you put a lot of topics in one in that. That's great. Is that true? I mean, is that true?
So that's like
Kinda true?
It's like an amalgamation of
A couple cousins.
like a couple cousins maybe, and then like just a bunch of people. One of my brothers, he doesn't have truck nuts, but like just like that culture that I like was in and around. And I wrote that joke. I think I was going to a show. I don't remember where, but I was driving through, I want to say Fond du Lac, I think. And some dude in this truck like sped around me with his truck nuts, and I just like kind of had the idea of like, okay, this guy definitely like would get mad if someone was like, my pronouns are this, but like has like, you know, just like thinking about like all the dudes I grew up with, like, oh, look at her, like talking about their vehicles, like, oh yeah, she's a good truck or whatever. And that one like I kind of built, and that joke's probably at least 5 years old. So that's one of the ones we were talking about. Like, I love that joke. It does really well. Like, it's one of the jokes that like, because like you have to read a room. Like, I don't do necessarily all my jokes in like say a rural room versus like a city room, but that's one that is like I can do anywhere. And like if I'm in a rural place, they can laugh at that kind of part of their culture, and in the city, it's maybe like more like they're laughing at them, which I don't necessarily like. But it's like one of those jokes. Yeah, right. No, honestly, I mean, it is like I grew up in Iowa, so like I had parts of that. I mean, I'm not gonna ever throw a rubber nutsack on my truck.
You know some people that that are good dude. You're like, that's a good dude.
Yeah,
you might have a truck. You might have truck nuts, but
totally. And I'm related to many of them. Where I'm like, they're good people. We just don't agree on nuts on trucks, among other things.
Yeah, nuts on lots of things.
Yeah.
That is such a good point. And that, I love comedy in that place where you can find the absurdities and things, right? Like you're able to kind of touch on a couple absurdities and put them together, right?
Yeah.
And weave them together. Where there's the folks that will do the truck nuts, but then they also will gender their cars,
right?
Like, well, I remember I had a piano teacher who dated. It was her, well, not dated. She outlived like 3 husbands.
Oh, that doesn't seem right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And he'd be like, starts to think maybe I have now that I'm
Right.
saying it.
Right. Yeah. That's spooky.
You know, every husband got like more and more like regal as they were like, it was like, you know, it's just a senior executive. Then it like came like a alderman. Then it was like a, you know, then she just kept going up.
Then it was Jeff Bezos.
She was super old, but her husband, who was an alderman, was in the Navy and had this big painting that said, "Why is a ship called a she?" And it was explaining all the different things about why a ship is a female.
Oh God, I hate that.
I was in the Navy.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes sense. Horny dudes.
Yeah, and
at sea.
Be like,
Seamen.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder if that like carries over to trucks, because when I look at like a F-250 or like a Tundra or whatever, like I don't know, they seem pretty masculine.
It seems very masculine. Yeah.
And that's hence the truck.
Which
bus.
exactly. Which we won't generalize. We'll say 60% of the people who drive those trucks, if that were a person, they'd be like, "Well, that's not a she." And it's like, "Well, you call your truck? What do you mean? That's pretty manly." Yeah, finding those absurdities is fun. I once had, it was actually David Lewis. You're gonna have him soon, right?
Fingers crossed.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, big get. He pointed out to me, he was like kind of ribbing me a little bit. He's like, yeah, your comedy is like a lot of like, this thing is different than this thing, but they're kind of similar to this thing. And it's like, oh, I guess you're kind of right about that. He was trying to razz me, but I was like, you know what? I think you're kind of right.
Well, for that, I mean, I remember I looked up comedy, like how to write a comedy joke, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I write a comedy joke?
Yeah. I would love to. I'm going to Google that when I go home now.
I remember
I could use some help.
I remember looking up like how to build premises, what makes things funny, and read a bunch of blog posts. And one that I saw consistently was comparison humor, of like finding, and you say, why is this like this? Mm-hmm. And you find two seemingly different and unrelated things.
Sure. And
you find a funny way how they're related.
Yep.
And that seems to be like an entire classification of joke.
Totally.
Itself.
And it's like, if you watch Late Night, I mean, that's what they do. They'll tie two different like headline news stories together in like this weird abstract way. Yeah, for sure. That's one joke structure method, I'd say.
Yeah, the form, right? The form of comedy is always,
and that's the thing. There's really there is no form, but there can be, you know.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. Well, see, is there any last minute comments or things that folks saying we should shout out? Smokey talking smack.
Lognarok says, my van uses he, him pronouns.
There you go.
He says, never thought I'd say that out loud.
Well, you didn't. You typed it, Logan. It's okay. Hope you're not reading what you're typing.
You're
out
in Minneapolis,
loud.
Logan. You better be careful.
Yeah, you better be careful.
Better be careful when you say that.
Apparently, he just pulled the milk duds on his uncle.
Dude,
really?
Solid. I mean, it's timeless. It really is.
Wow, that's amazing.
All right, and Smoky Water is now following you on Twitter, AJ.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, you're now my 555th follower after 12 years, so thank you so much. You'll see some good stuff. Don't worry. Follow me on Instagram too, Smoky Waters, at AJ-.grill.
At AJ-.grill.
And then Ryan Holman says, where are your outfits from? / who are you wearing?
Oh boy, he's goating me to shout out Fresh to Death Vintage. It's my partner, my gal's business, local business. She is very, very good at what she does. Check her out. Lots of good stuff.
So if you want to look like
this is a personal find, but this one's her. Yeah.
If you want to look like
if you want to look like me. She's got a lot of dope shit that I wouldn't wear too. So
I think I'm wearing Primark.
Nice.
It's imported.
Of course.
It's the Coles of
made
England.
from the hands of children.
Well, cool, guys. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for being on this.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Thanks so much for coming on on this. One last time before we go, if you want to just like shout out the places to go. Obviously, you got a special out.
Yeah.
You can click on the link in the description. For
please,
the special.
Please watch my special, AJ Grill. I'll quit when I'm 30. I'm 31. That's a joke. And it's on Here Presents. Shout out Here Presents. If you're local, if you're in Milwaukee, I'm all over the city. I don't know that I can't think of my most recent upcoming Milwaukee dates, but Bremen on Mondays, High Note Tuesdays, Laughing Tap. I'm going to be there. If you're watching this, you want to go watch comedy tonight, I'm going to head to the Laughing Tap right now. Improv on Thursdays. Back at High Note on Fridays. That's just open mics. AJGrillComedy.com is where you can find my shows. Upcoming in April, I'm going to be in Iowa City, Columbus, Ohio, Des Moines, Iowa, hopefully Minneapolis in May. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, hard worker. I love to see it. Hey, man, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
on it.
Appreciate it.
Tube Studios, thanks for hosting, as always. Bring us out, boys.
Yeah, thank you, guys.